Commander ZYXRAL stood before the Galactic Council, his 4 eyes gleaming with absolute certainty. For a century, his people, the Kroth 9, had studied humanity. They had intercepted transmissions, analyzed their conflicts, documented their weaknesses. These humans, he declared, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction, broadcast their every vulnerability across the void. They fight among themselves endlessly. They're divided by borders, beliefs, and the color of their skin. They poison their own planet. They're soft, undisciplined, and utterly predictable. The council chamber fell silent. Holographic displays showed Earth spinning peacefully in the darkness, a blue marble ripe for conquest. We have observed 10,000 of their conflicts, ZYXRAL continued. We have studied their military doctrines, their weapon systems, their psychological profiles. We have trained our warriors against simulated humans for 100 cycles. Every scenario ends the same way, swift, decisive victory. Elder Counselor Thren 9 raised a tentacle skeptically. The humans have nuclear weapons. Primitive, but destructive. Which they'll never use, ZYXRAL countered. Too much debate, too much hesitation. By the time their leaders finish arguing, Earth will be ours. We've watched them negotiate for years over the simplest matters. They're paralyzed by their own democracy. The war simulations had been flawless. Kroth 9 soldiers, enhanced with exoskeletons and plasma weaponry, had crushed every virtual human force. The battle algorithms predicted 73% casualties among defending forces within the first hour, complete capitulation within 6. Their warriors are trained for conventional warfare, ZYXRAL explained, gesturing to footage of human military exercises. Rigid formations, predictable tactics, strict chains of command. They follow rules, even in war. The Geneva Conventions, the laws of armed conflict, they handicap themselves with morality. The council reviewed the intelligence. Human civilians panicked at the smallest disasters. Their cities crumbled during natural catastrophes. Their emergency services were overwhelmed by localized incidents. 3 billion Kroth 9 warriors will descend simultaneously on their major population centers, ZYXRAL outlined. We strike at dawn across all time zones. Before their militaries can coordinate, we'll have secured the infrastructure. The humans will see our superiority and surrender. It's logical. It's inevitable. Thren 9 remained unconvinced. The humans are unpredictable. Our analysts noted. Unpredictable within understood parameters, ZYXRAL interrupted. Chaos that we've quantified and prepared for. Elder, respectfully, we've spent a century on this. Every variable is accounted for. The vote was unanimous. The invasion fleet, containing the entire Kroth 9 military might, began its final jump toward Earth. ZYXRAL returned to his flagship, confident in the accumulated knowledge of 100 years. The humans had shown him everything he needed to know. They had broadcasted their wars, their weaknesses, their every vulnerability. What they hadn't shown, what they had carefully never shown, was what humans became when truly threatened. The fleet emerged from hyperspace above North America. Commander ZYXRAL had 12 minutes left to live. The Kroth 9 drop pods screamed through Earth's atmosphere like metallic rain. ZYXRAL watched from orbit as 3 billion warriors descended on calculated targets, New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, Sao Paulo. Every major city simultaneously. Invasion commencing, he announced. Estimated time to. The first anomaly occurred at 7 seconds. A farmer in Kansas, 73 years old, spotted a pod cratering his cornfield. Before the Kroth 9 soldier could fully emerge, the old man shot it with a hunting rifle he'd owned for 50 years. Then he called his neighbor. Not the police, his neighbor. ZYXRAL frowned. Civilians aren't supposed to engage. Isolated incident, his tactical officer assured him. 1 in 3 billion. At 34 seconds, a pod landed on a freeway in Los Angeles. Traffic stopped. The Croth 9 warrior raised his plasma weapon, expecting the humans to flee in terror per simulation protocols. Instead, 17 drivers, complete strangers, coordinated via hand signals. 3 rammed the alien with their vehicles while others threw improvised weapons. A construction worker crushed it with a bulldozer he'd been transporting. "They're not evacuating," the tactical officer said, confused. "They're attacking?" At 89 seconds, HFY's confidence first wavered. A pod crashed through the roof of a wedding reception in Nigeria. The Croth 9 soldier emerged, weapon ready, facing 200 unarmed humans in formal attire. The humans grabbed chairs, tables, bottles, anything within reach, and charged. The alien managed 3 plasma shots before being overwhelmed. The groom, bleeding from a chest wound, beat the invader with a champagne bottle until it stopped moving. "Send reinforcements to Grid 7, HFY ordered. "Sir, we need reinforcements everywhere." By minute 2, the pattern was undeniable. Humans weren't following any protocol. A librarian in Stockholm used a medieval axe from a museum display. A chef in Paris led his entire kitchen staff out with knives and boiling oil. In Mumbai, a grandmother organized her apartment building into a coordinated defense using WhatsApp. "This doesn't match the simulations," HFY said, his voice hollow. The tactical displays lit up with casualty reports. Red indicators, Croth 9 deaths, bloomed across the globe like a plague. Not from military resistance. From civilians. From everyone. In Texas, a high school football team tackled an alien squad. In Australia, surfers used their boards as weapons. In Kenya, a pride of lions, freed from a damaged zoo, joined the fighting alongside humans who'd learned the aliens' heat signatures frightened the animals into attacking. "They're not organized," the tactical officer insisted. "It's chaos. Random chaos." But HFY saw the truth. It wasn't chaos. It was something the simulations had never predicted: spontaneous, universal, furious coordination without command structure. A pod landed in a Tokyo subway. Before the Croth 9 could orient themselves, 200 morning commuters, office workers, students, elderly, attacked as one. No one had given orders. No one had trained them. They simply refused to accept conquest. "Withdrawal protocol," HFY began. "Sir, the militaries haven't even responded yet." That's when HFY understood his fatal mistake. He'd studied human militaries, human governments, human divisions. He'd prepared for soldiers and politicians. He hadn't prepared for humanity itself. By minute 3, social media had done what a century of Croth 9 intelligence gathering never predicted: turned 7 billion individuals into one coordinated swarm. A teenager in Seoul live-streamed an alien's weak point, the joint between neck and torso. Within seconds, 40 million people knew. Within a minute, 400 million. The video was shared, dubbed, translated into 70 languages. A meme was born, #neckshot. "They're communicating faster than our encryption algorithms can track," the intelligence officer reported, all 7 of his eyes wide with panic. "Every human has a communication device. They're sharing our positions, our weaknesses, tactical advice in real time." In London, a bookstore owner saw the #neckshot video and used it to take down an alien with a cricket bat. She filmed it. That video showed that blunt force worked better than sharp objects against Croth 9 armor. Within 90 seconds, humans worldwide adjusted their tactics. HFY watched in horror as humanity learned and adapted exponentially. A grandmother in Peru discovered aliens were vulnerable to high-frequency sounds. She'd set off her home alarm system in panic. 20 minutes later, every human within reach of emergency sirens was using them as weapons. "This is impossible," ZYXRAL whispered. Civilian populations require 72 hours minimum to coordinate responses to invasion scenarios. We modeled this. You modeled their governments, Thren9 said through the comm, his voice grim. Not their people. By minute 4, the first military responses began. But they weren't what Croth-9 simulations predicted. There were no debates, no committee meetings, no chains of command causing delays. In Washington, the Pentagon had already authorized everything. A general simply said, "Kill them all," and every protocol that normally took hours was bypassed in seconds. Commanders worldwide received identical instructions: use everything. Rules are suspended. Win. Fighter jets scrambled from every air base on Earth. Not in the careful, coordinated waves the simulations expected. All of them. At once. Pilots who'd been enemies yesterday, Indian and Pakistani, Israeli and Iranian, American and Chinese, flew toward common targets. They're not following engagement protocols, the tactical officer said. They're just attacking. No formations, no strategy, just. They're angry, ZYXRAL finished quietly. In the South China Sea, a destroyer captain saw a Croth-9 landing craft and didn't wait for orders. He fired everything: missiles, guns, the rail gun that was technically still experimental. Other ships in the area, from 6 different nations, did the same. No one asked permission. No one coordinated. They just knew. A Russian submarine surfaced specifically to fire on alien targets visible from its periscope. The captain knew it compromised his position. He didn't care. But the militaries were almost unnecessary. Humanity had already weaponized itself. In Detroit, factory workers trapped alien soldiers in a foundry and flooded it with molten steel. In Singapore, construction crews used cranes to drop entire shipping containers on invaders. In the Amazon, indigenous tribes used their knowledge of the jungle to create traps that caught Croth-9 warriors by the dozens. A group of hackers in Iceland, teenagers, mostly, cracked the Croth-9 communication network in 4 minutes and flooded it with human music. Heavy metal, specifically. The alien sensory organs, calibrated for their home world's quiet, were overwhelmed. Our warriors are requesting extraction, the tactical officer reported. 70% casualties across all theaters. It's been 5 minutes. Yes, Commander. ZYXRAL pulled up the simulation data, searching desperately for where they'd gone wrong. The humans were doing everything the simulations said they couldn't do. They weren't panicking, they were hunting. They weren't divided, they were united. They weren't following rules, they were winning. Prepare for full withdrawal, he ordered. Sir, we can't withdraw all. Now. The recall order went out at minute 6. 3 billion Croth-9 warriors received the same message: return to extraction points immediately. But humanity had learned something else in those 6 minutes: how to track Croth-9 communication signatures. They're running, someone shouted in Nairobi, in Arabic. The message spread like wildfire. Don't let them leave. This was the moment ZYXRAL understood true terror. The humans weren't defending anymore. They were hunting. A Croth-9 squad in Berlin tried to reach their extraction pod. They made it 3 blocks before being surrounded by civilians who'd simply followed them. No weapons, at first, just bodies. Hundreds of humans, walking purposefully, closing in from all sides. When the aliens opened fire in desperation, the crowd didn't scatter. It absorbed the casualties and kept coming. They're acting like hive insects, the tactical officer said in disbelief. Sacrificing individuals for collective victory. But they're mammals. Individualistic. It's not possible. Tell them that, ZYXRAL said, pointing at the screens. In Mexico City, 3 extraction pods were destroyed before any Croth-9 reached them. Civilians had learned that the pods were vulnerable during startup, 12 seconds of exposure before shields activated. 12 seconds was all they needed. The human militaries, now fully mobilized, were systematically destroying every Croth 9 asset they could find. But they were racing against civilians who had already turned the tide. In Mumbai, police officers found themselves directing traffic away from alien positions so civilians could attack safely. The role reversal was absurd: protect the citizens by letting them fight. By minute 7, every major city had organized resistance cells. Not formal. Not military. Just groups of humans who decided that their street, their neighborhood, their city was theirs and they wanted the aliens gone. A cafe owner in Paris stood on an overturned car and rallied his street in French. "They came to our home," he shouted. "To our Earth. Show them what happens when you threaten a human's home." The street, shopkeepers, tourists, students, beggars, responded with a roar that needed no translation. They chased down every Croth 9 soldier in the district. HFY watched similar scenes play out globally. In Johannesburg, in Jakarta, in Jerusalem. Different languages, different cultures, same response: furious, united rejection. "The humans are broadcasting footage of defeated aliens," the intelligence officer reported. "They're celebrating. Turning it into entertainment." Indeed, every news channel, every social media platform showed the same thing: humans winning. A man in Brazil posed for selfies with an unconscious alien. A woman in Japan live-streamed herself looting Croth 9 technology. The message was clear: you're not scary, you're just another thing we've conquered. "Our fleet," HFY said suddenly. "How many warriors have made it back?" Silence. "How many?" 17,000, Commander. "Out of 3 billion. HFY's primary heart stopped. That's 0.00057%, sir." By minute 8, human fighter jets had air superiority. Croth 9 drop ships trying to extract survivors were being shot down. The pilots weren't even following proper engagement procedures, they were competing for kill counts. 2 Indian pilots encountered the same target. Instead of coordinating, they argued over radio about who had the right to the kill. They solved it by both firing. The argument itself took longer than the actual combat. Ground forces were systematically clearing every alien position. But in most cases, they arrived to find civilians had already handled it. Soldiers stood awkwardly, weapons ready, watching accountants and taxi drivers finish the job. In Houston, a National Guard unit responded to a report of alien invaders at a shopping mall. They arrived to find soccer moms had already subdued the aliens using minivans and shopping carts. "Ma'am, we're here to help," the sergeant said. "Little late, honey," one woman replied, standing on a defeated alien while filming it for Facebook. "But you can help us figure out if these things are worth anything on eBay." HFY reviewed the data one final time, searching for any explanation. Every projection, every model, every simulation had been wrong. Not just wrong, catastrophically, impossibly wrong. "What did we miss?" he whispered. Threnina's voice came through, heavy with resignation. "We studied their wars, HFY. We never asked why they survived them." By minute 9, humanity stopped defending and started attacking. "Sir, they've located the fleet," the tactical officer reported, voice trembling. "They're launching spacecraft." "Impossible. Humans don't have interplanetary military vessels. Their space programs are fragmented, civilian-focused." The officer cut him off. "They're repurposing everything. SpaceX, Blue Origin, NASA, ESA, Roscosmos, all of them. They're strapping weapons to commercial satellites. They've turned the International Space Station into a weapons platform." On screen, HFY watched a communications satellite, modified with what looked like chemical rockets and iron plating, rammed directly into a Croth 9 scout ship. The satellite's owner, a billionaire entrepreneur, was live-streaming from Mission Control. "That's for trying to invade my planet. We've got 40 more satellites and they're all coming for you." It wasn't sophisticated. It was barely functional. But it was working. "They're improvising military spacecraft in less than 10 minutes, HFY said in disbelief. How? Because while Croth 9 took a century to plan the perfect invasion, humans had spent that same century preparing for the end of their world. Nuclear war, asteroid impacts, climate catastrophe, zombie apocalypses, they'd imagined every doom scenario possible. They'd built bunkers, stockpiled weapons, created contingency plans. Entire industries existed around human paranoia. When the real invasion came, they were almost relieved. Finally, a threat they could shoot. On Earth, organized counterattacks were sweeping through former Croth 9 positions. But these weren't military operations, they were civilian-led vengeance tours. In Sydney, a group calling themselves the Bush Exterminators had trapped 24 aliens in a stadium and were taking bets on how long they'd last. The local police had given up trying to stop it and were instead selling concessions. In Chicago, neighborhood gangs had declared a temporary truce to hunt aliens together. Rival gang members who'd been shooting at each other yesterday were now coordinating attacks with military precision. South Side and North Side worked together, one gang member said into a news camera, genuinely amazed. "If that don't tell you how serious this is, nothing will." Human governments, realizing their militaries were almost unnecessary, pivoted to logistics. If civilians were doing the fighting, fine, give them what they need. Armories were open to the public. Police stations handed out ammunition. In Texas, the governor authorized citizens to use any means necessary, which everyone understood as permission to get creative. A hardware store owner in Atlanta made national news by offering discounts on chainsaws for alien removal. By minute 10, Croth 9 survivors were broadcasting surrender signals. The humans' response was telling, they couldn't decide whether to accept. "Let them surrender," argued diplomats and peacekeepers. "They came here to conquer us." "No mercy," argued pretty much everyone else. The debate lasted approximately 30 seconds before someone pointed out they could just accept the surrender and imprison them. Problem solved. But capturing aliens proved difficult because humans kept killing them first and asking questions later. A Croth 9 warrior in Rome tried to surrender to a priest. The priest, a pacifist who'd never held a weapon, wrestled with his conscience for approximately 2 seconds before hitting the alien with a candlestick. "God forgives," the priest said afterward. "I don't." HFY made a desperate calculation. Destroy their command centers. Cut off the head, the body dies. "Sir, they don't have centralized command. It's all distributed. Every human is making independent decisions. That's impossible. No military functions like that." "It's not military, Commander. It's all of them." In orbit, human spacecraft were now actively engaging Croth 9 vessels. A Chinese space station module, hastily fitted with mining lasers, disabled a destroyer. An Indian satellite collided with a supply ship, taking both out but achieving the objective. Most devastating was a billionaire's private space station, built for tourism, that the owner had evacuated and then deliberately crashed into the Croth 9 flagship's hangar bay. The live stream from inside the station, moments before impact, showed the owner drinking champagne and toasting the camera, worth every penny. Totally worth it. The impact didn't destroy the flagship, but it crippled its launch capabilities, trapping thousands of warriors who'd made it back. "We need to jump away," HFY said. "Full retreat. Leave everyone behind." "Commander, the Croth 9 code forbids." The Croth 9 code didn't account for humans. "Jump. Now. Before they destroy the entire fleet." The navigation officer hesitated. Sir, it's been 11 minutes. Yes, thank you, I'm aware. No, sir. Our projections said Earth would fall in 6 hours. It's been 11 minutes and we've lost. The Croth 9 fleet began emergency jump procedures. 47 capital ships, 300 support vessels, the entire pride of their species, preparing to flee from a species they'd underestimated so catastrophically that underestimate was insufficient. They'd missed the point entirely. Jump drives charging, the navigation officer reported. 90 seconds to escape vector. 90 seconds. HFY watched the countdown, each second an eternity. On the screens, Earth continued its impossible defiance. In Tokyo, a Croth 9 warrior, wounded, armor cracked, crawled toward an extraction point that no longer existed. A schoolgirl, no more than 12, stepped into his path. She held a baseball bat. Behind her, 20 more children appeared, all armed with sporting equipment. This is our planet, the girl said in Japanese. She didn't know the alien couldn't understand her. She didn't care. The meaning was clear enough. The alien raised its weapon. Empty. The girl swung. 60 seconds to jump, the navigation officer counted. A message came through from Earth's surface, from someone named President Okonkwo, speaking for the hastily assembled Global Defense Coordination. Croth 9 Fleet, this is Earth. You have 30 seconds to surrender before we start shooting down your ships. HFY almost laughed. With what? They don't have the capability. The first nuclear missile launched from a submarine. Then another. Then 20 more. Americans, Russians, Chinese, Indians, every nation with nuclear capability was launching. Not at each other. At the Croth 9 fleet. They're firing nuclear weapons into space, the tactical officer shouted. They're insane. The radiation, the debris field, they'll contaminate their own orbit for decades. They don't care, HFY whispered, finally understanding. They'd rather poison their own space than let us leave freely. The first nuke detonated near a frigate. The EMP fried its systems. The explosion, inefficient in vacuum but still devastating, crippled 2 more ships. 40 seconds to jump. More missiles came. Conventional, nuclear, experimental. The Americans launched something that intelligence identified as a classified orbital weapons platform that wasn't supposed to exist. It worked perfectly. The Chinese fired what appeared to be a modified space station module filled with ball bearings. It shotgunned through a destroyer's hull like paper. Humans, Thren 9 said over the comm, his voice carrying something like respect, fight like the universe is trying to kill them. Because for them, it always has been. HFY pulled up humanity's history, the real history, not the military conflicts. Asteroid impacts that killed 90% of species. Ice ages. Plagues that wiped out entire continents. Famines. Floods. Volcanoes. For 4 billion years, Earth had been trying to kill everything on it, and humans were what crawled out of that crucible. They didn't unite because they were peaceful. They united because they were survivors who recognized an extinction event when they saw one. 20 seconds. The missiles kept coming. A billionaire tech mogul's private rocket, loaded with whatever explosive materials he could find, rammed a support ship. The rocket's company logo was clearly visible on the wreckage. News helicopters were filming the space battle, broadcasting it globally. A species that turned everything into entertainment was now watching alien ships burn and cheering. 10 seconds. A final message came from Earth, audio only, from someone with a thick Russian accent. Hey alien friends. We saved something special for you. Is gift from humanity. Enjoy. 6 satellites, disguised communication platforms, revealed themselves as kinetic bombardment weapons. Tungsten rods, accelerated to orbital velocity, began falling toward the Croth 9 flagship. "Jump now!" HFY screamed. The fleet jumped. 3 ships didn't make it, caught in Earth's gravity well, they broke apart during the transition. The rest escaped into hyperspace, trailing radiation and debris. In the flagship's command center, alarms blared. Casualty reports flooded in. Of 3 billion warriors, fewer than 30,000 had made it back. 99.9% casualties. The worst military defeat in galactic history. 12 minutes. HFY collapsed into his command throne, all 4 eyes unfocused. "How?" he whispered. "We studied them for a century. How did we miss this?" The intelligence officer, barely alive, answered, "We studied their divisions, Commander. We never looked at what they agreed on. We saw 1,000 different cultures, religions, nations. We didn't see that they all agreed on one thing." "What?" "That Earth is theirs. And you don't take what belongs to humans." The fleet limped away from Sol System, broadcasting on all frequencies, "Avoid third planet of Yellow Star. Inhabitants extremely hostile. Classification, Death World. Danger level, absolute." Behind them, Earth continued spinning, blue and beautiful and utterly untouchable. Humanity had received their first interstellar visitors. The welcome had been definitive. The last Croth 9 ship disappeared from Earth's sensors at 12 minutes, 43 seconds after the invasion began. Commander HFY stood alone in his quarters, reviewing the battle recordings. He would spend the rest of his life doing this, mandatory for all surviving commanders, so others would learn. But what lesson could be taught? Don't invade humans? The lesson ran deeper than that. A message arrived from the Galactic Council. They'd monitored everything. They'd watched 3 billion warriors fall to a species that hadn't even known aliens existed 2 hours ago. "Commander HFY, you are recalled to stand trial for the greatest military catastrophe in recorded history. How do you respond?" "I accept full responsibility," HFY said. He meant it. This was his failure. His arrogance. "But I must ask, did any other intelligence service predict this outcome?" Silence. "Exactly. We all saw the same data. We all reached the same conclusions. We were all wrong." He pulled up footage of a human child, no more than 6 years old, throwing rocks at a Croth 9 warrior 3 times her size, screaming defiance. "We studied human wars. We should have studied why they survived." On Earth, cleanup was already beginning. Humans, still running on adrenaline and fury, were pulling apart every piece of Croth 9 technology they could find. In California, engineers were reverse engineering plasma weapons. In Germany, scientists dissected Croth 9 armor. In India, programmers cracked their navigation systems. In Japan, they were already building toys based on alien designs. Humanity had gone from "we're alone in the universe" to "we beat aliens in 12 minutes" and decided the logical next step was stealing their homework. The United Nations held an emergency session. For once, every nation showed up, and for once, they agreed on everything. "We need unified planetary defense." Agreed. "We need space-based weapons platforms." Agreed. "We need to expand into the solar system immediately in case they come back." How fast can we do it? The invasion, meant to conquer Earth, had accidentally done what nothing else could, united humanity completely. Not through peace, but through the shared experience of saying absolutely not to alien conquest. A week later, Earth broadcast its first intentional interstellar message. Not the friendly, hopeful transmissions of old. This one was simple. "This is Earth. Species classification, human. We know you're out there now. Here's your warning, we didn't want this fight, but we won it in 12 minutes. We're keeping the technology you left behind. We're coming to space now. If you're friendly, we'll talk. If you're not, you saw what happened to the last guys. Choose wisely. The message was transmitted in every direction, on every frequency humans had discovered. Across the galaxy, species received it and made note: third planet, Sol system. Avoid. Deathworld-class civilization. Hostile when provoked. Unreasonably effective in combat. Prone to improvisation and irrational bravery. Classification updated from primitive to dangerous. Commander ZYXRAL heard the message in his cell, awaiting trial. He almost smiled. The human equivalent would be laughing at yourself. They'd done it. They'd turned a near-extinction event into a coming-out party. They're going to be a problem, he said to his guard. For who, Commander? Everyone. Anyone who thinks humans are easy prey. Anyone who thinks they're predictable. He pulled up the final casualty count. 3 billion warriors. 12 minutes. They don't fight to win. They fight like the universe itself is their enemy and they're angry about it. On Earth, in 1,000 cities, monuments were being planned. Not for soldiers, they'd barely participated. For the civilians. The grandmother in Peru. The wedding party in Nigeria. The factory workers in Detroit. The children in Tokyo. Ordinary humans who'd looked at alien conquerors and said, collectively and decisively, no. In a bar in New York, a group of people who'd fought together, strangers 12 minutes ago, bought drinks and toasted. To humanity, one said. To Earth, said another. To being too stupid to know when we're supposed to lose, said a third, and everyone laughed. Outside, the sky was clear. Stars shone down, infinite and ancient. Somewhere up there, aliens were fleeing, warning others, updating databases. On Earth, humans looked up at those same stars with a new understanding. They weren't alone. The universe was full of life. And now the universe knew, humans didn't scare easily. They didn't break when invaded. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. They got angry. And then they won. 12 minutes. That's all it had taken to announce humanity to the cosmos. The message was clear: Earth is closed. But humanity is coming. And the galaxy would never be the same.